Welcome to TYT Community. This is your guest host today. My name is Mike. I run a Twitter called Cool Mike Sin Incorporated, and where I pretend that I'm a corporation and I have more rights than human beings do in America. So here we are, and today I have, let's see, three special guests. I have Tom.
Hello.
Hello. Say hi, Tom. And I also got Sean. Sean's a regular on TYT Community.
Yes, I am.
Perfect. And I also got Tuki.
I'm visiting.
Hello, Tuki. How are you?
Hello.
Perfect. All right, so let's go ahead and jump right into it. So I selected three stories that I thought were pretty interesting on the for the past week. The first one is a long-going story that's been around for quite a while, since the Bush administration. Everybody remembers that, right?
No, Bush didn't exist. He's a figment of your imagination, according to the Republican Party. He never came to power. You must be mistaking him for the other Bush.
Right. No. This guy.
You mean Jeb?
No.
It's not Jeb.
The Bush ascended. The Bush Part 3 that we're going to get, the Latino Bush. He's the real Bush. Every other Bush in between doesn't matter. Only the first Bush and the last Bush matters, not the middle Bush.
Right. The one that wasn't so hot for America, that one tends to get tossed off to the wayside.
He doesn't
But
matter.
anyway, so happened that we did have a war going on during that administration. It turned out that we did torture some folks, in President Obama's words, which is not good, but it happened. So there was a CIA torture report that's been out for, or it's been leaked, and little bits and pieces been leaked out, detailing what exactly happened. So it's been not allowed for the public to see. And there's all kind of excuses why that is. It's to keep us safe. It's to make sure that the enemies don't get vital information about how we fight terrorism. And all you guys are familiar with the excuses. We've heard them a few hundred times. Well, it looks like it's getting pretty close to finally coming out in a heavily redacted form. Dianne Feinstein and other senators have been pushing for the release of it, and President Obama has been dragging his feet on it. Kerry doesn't really want to release it. So basically, I wanted to bring it out to you guys. What do you guys think is in the report that has the administration so scared to release it to the American public? Why all the secrecy, even after all these years have passed? Go ahead, Tom.
Oh,
what
good.
you think about it?
Why? Because this is the typical meme that we get from the Republicans. They're afraid. They're scared. They don't want to look like they're throwing the military under the bus, but that's probably what the report is going to do, like the military-industrial complex, and they're going to get crap from it, even though it's what the Bush administration did. And they really want to show they're supporting the troops, they're loving the troops, they're loving the CIA guys, and they're tough on this, but they're really not, and they're just towing the line, which is not what I don't think progressives voted for, but it's what we got.
Do you think that it goes a little bit deeper than just being like a Republican or a progressive aspect of it? Do you think that they have some damning information that would really make it abundantly clear that we have to do something, like put somebody under arrest, or somebody's got to go to jail, or anything kind of like that in that vein?
I hope so. I hope it does, because maybe then Cheney and George W. Bush would be tried in The Hague. Not that that'll ever happen. But you're coming from I'm a socialist democratic perspective here. I'm the extreme left of the far left that people get scared of. So that's where I'm coming from. But You know, I at this point try Obama because of the constant drone strikes he's done. They're really just they don't want to piss off the apple cart, and especially with Hillary and everything, because this will remind everybody it's all political at this point. It's all political with this administration, and it's really sad for what we were told this administration would possibly be.
Tookie, do you think that the American people deserve to know the exact truth of what happened during that would be outlined in the torture report?
I'm sorry, I thought I was in a scene from that movie where the guy says, "You can't handle the truth." I could have sworn that you were the lawyer and you were talking to me, and then I have to stand up. You can't handle it. Okay, but it was like one of those moments. Okay, here's the reality, and this is going to be sort of off topic. No one's going to jail. I'm sorry. I know you want that for your little liberal heart. You know, bless your heart, progressive. But nobody's going to jail, because everybody's already got their new job. They've already moved on. They've cashed in. They've moved out of the levers of power. They've cashed in their money. They got their job at the nice little industrial complex, working in Halliburton and everywhere else. They've either gone in and out of the government multiple times to finesse this report into not coming like constipation or something, and they've done everything. So I mean, it doesn't matter if the American public gets this report or doesn't get this report. I honestly don't think it matters domestically. Internationally speaking, it's huge news, because their news is distinctly different from our news. Our news is based a lot in Hollywood, and Hollywood has done a great job in desensitizing the American public from feeling that torture is a bad thing. I mean, think about how many movies. I mean, we had Homeland, James Bond. Everybody and their mama has desensitized us to the fact that, oh, you have to torture people. You have to beat them up to get the information. And once you get the information, you can save the world, because they have told us that. So, I mean, our domestic news is based off of our cultural news, and our cultural news is we now beat people up, which would horrify our great-great-great-grandparents that actually died, not the sons of bitches that are still alive and watching Fox News. I'm talking about the dead ones. And that we now partake in this particular practice. It's not part of the American psyche, but it is original American psyche, because, you know, when we caught the Germans doing it, when we caught the Japanese doing it, was horrific. You know, there are service letters where they say that when the GIs came home and they were like, you know, this is not something that we want you to partake in when you go to Japan and go to these islands. You know, we do not want you to torture these people. We are going to be Americans, and that was the flag. That's not a flag anymore. The flag now is fuck them motherfuckers, kill them all, and torture them on the way out and save the world. That's what we're in the business of now. So I don't know if I answered your question, but
no, it's good. Sean, let me ask you this: in the article, it did say about John Kerry that wrote a letter or called Dianne Feinstein and was basically said, "Look, I support the release of this document, but the timing is really the issue." What's your thoughts on that? And like, if there is a correct time to release it, what would be that time, or why the delaying of it so long? Is it just hoping that it's going to wash away from the American memory or the psyche, like we had alluded to?
I think the best time to release it personally is now. But from John Kerry's perspective, that he has to wait until he gets a new shipment of black Sharpie markers, because they're going to redact all the interesting parts of this report. Like, this isn't a timing issue, or the only way it could be a timing issue is if they wanted to release it before an election. If, let's say, Jeb Bush was the Republican nominee or something like political like that. But to me, this is really more about power versus no power, and the power establishment doesn't want this report to come out, and that's whether it's a Democratic power establishment or Republican power establishment. It's more about protecting the powerful, and who cares about the citizens? Who cares about the people that were tortured? I mean, they were mostly Muslims anyway, and we know internationally that Muslims don't matter to the American government.
I would say, okay, if you're saying to the American public, I actually agree. I would actually agree that unfortunately, due to our low concentration of Muslim population, unlike France and UK, that doesn't matter. You're right. No, I agree. No.
Well, I was saying to the American government, but also to a lot of members of the American public. Like, these people were probably not terrorists, but they could have been. So we had to torture them. So to me, it's powerful, protecting the powerful. It's why Obama didn't prosecute any of them. It's why he didn't prosecute any Wall Street bankers.
I would say I would disagree. I would disagree. I'm actually going to disagree. No, I'm actually going to disagree.
Can I jump in real quick? I'm sorry. I want to jump in real quick. The reason Obama didn't, two reasons Obama didn't prosecute. One, they showed him the Zapruder film. Okay, they up close, they ran it a few times like JFK, front and to the back. They did that. Two, and I'm thoroughly convinced at this point. Two, they brought in these big bags of cash for his presidential library that he wants to build. Okay, in Chicago or Hawaii or wherever he chooses, and that's what's going to happen, right? So that's why and yes, there's more than that, but I'm sorry, it comes down to money, and it comes down to this industrial complex that just doesn't want them to release it. Go ahead.
I would say you're underestimating what the optics would be of the first black president imprisoning the last president. That's actually political. That's political. That's not good. That's not good. And I don't think you're putting that into perspective. What the old power structure having to do you realize that Gerald Ford was the first president to actually have to give testimony. Gerald Ford. That wasn't that long ago. The first president. That never happened before. A sitting president having to give testimony because he was shot at. I think it was shot at, or I can't remember what happened, but he had to give testimony. I mean, again, Nixon was the first president that almost got, And you got Clinton, who was the first president, who was the second president that almost got kicked out. So I mean, that never ends well for any party. It never ends well to pay the tab.
And I'm sorry, I'm not underestimating the optics. Yeah. I want a perp walk. I want Eric Holder to be the reason for the perp walk. It'll never happen in my wettest, wildest dreams.
Ooh.
But I want those optics. I want the Democratic Party to be strong and law and order.
You don't live out your presidency or your kingship with those kind of optics. And you're underestimating the culture and climate that Bush created. You're underestimating how dirty of a ship he actually ran. He ran a ship that would put African dictators to shame. I mean, our military-industrial complex didn't get audited properly during his run. If you notice it, look at the audit result. That didn't get audited.
Yeah, no, but see, and that's the problem, and that's why I want this, but it's never going to happen because we don't have leaders in power that will just say, you know what, F off, I'm going to take this by the balls, and I'm going to deliver what I promised. Because the last guy to do that took it in the head.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I almost wanted to say you're asking this man to take a bullet because that would have been the end. You realize that our Secret Service was filled with tons of, Bush doctoring people, Our military, are a higher level of many of the people who went into the Iraq War retired. Remember?
Yeah, or they got cushy jobs
or they got pushed out. You know,
Yeah.
if you're Shinseki, you got pushed out. I mean, that's what happened. The Bush doctrine people, you know, gone. You know, it pushed out so many people from the military and so many people that were not into it. They were just pushed out. So, I mean, I think you're underestimating the fact of how fucked up Bush years were. You're underestimating the level of fucked up. Obama getting shot in the head would not have helped America. You had the economy in trash. You had capital flight, which means that everybody who was stealing stuff took their bags of money and ran to Russia and Brazil and parked in Russia and Brazil.
I hear you, but we need.
You literally had the Koch brother. You really had the Koch brother flirting with Tea Party groups to come to Obama's gates and do all kinds of madness. I mean,
but we need. Here's the thing. I agree with you. I'm not arguing that
do
part.
not look a gift horse in the mouth here. This could have went a lot worse than it did.
I agree.
And I love your hearts and flowers.
We don't know how bad that it went. We haven't seen the report. Like. The report exists. Just release it is all we're asking for. It's been 2 years. Like, for prosecutions, all that. I get it. I get it's not going to happen. But like, just let the report out.
I think we're talking about two different things, though. We're talking about the prosecution of the people who did the things in the report, and you're talking about the fact that the report is coming out in itself and the stopping of the report. So
I think that
I actually agree with you. I don't agree with you, Hearts and Flowers, but I definitely agree with
Well, okay. It's not so much Hearts and Flowers. It's that I want my government that I want to love again to be productive and work. I don't want this government that we have. It's broken, it's screwed up, and I wish it would work, but I don't want the president to have to take a bullet for it to work.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. I'm more realistic than you. You know, I love your unicorns. I love it. You know, I love it. I love the unicorns and beer. I absolutely love it. But, you know, I want my president to make it to the end of his run without a bullet in his head. I want a Band-Aid on the boo-boos, and I want to make it until we get to the next person. At the very least, and I want a retirement, and I want a 401k, and I want my Social Security there.
Now, Tookie, I wanted to at least interject this. Like you alluded to the political, or somebody did, where it would be bad optics for President Obama to, or his Justice Department to go after the previous administration for CIA torture abuses and that kind of stuff. That is true. It would be bad optics, but
it's also bad optics not to as well. I get
right, and the other aspect of that is the Republicans really don't afford him the same luxury. Like imagine that the first black president would get impeached for launching a unconstitutional war into Syria by a majority white Congress. That would also be bad optics, would it not?
I don't think the Republicans would care. You see that the Republican strategy is the same strategy of MacArthur, the MacArthur era. It's not built on ideas. It's not built on building. It's not built on anything. All they're doing is every single time they're on a mic, they're attacking over something. It doesn't matter what it is. It's a constant attack. It's the way a prosecutor, goes after, somebody they're trying to indict or if they did their jobs. It's the way a prosecutor works. I mean, more than half the people in Congress never had a real job. They were attorneys. So that's the way they treat, public policy now is just attack, attack, attack. I don't have any ideas, but I can attack all day because it doesn't take me anything to attack. Attacking takes nothing. As a programmer, you can build 101 things, but one back door lets the person in. The hacker isn't, wonderful, great, and wondrous because he found the one, door into your program or into whatever you built. I mean, the person who built it is amazing, but the hacker only needs to find one door. So that's all they do. They just attack, attack, attack.
Or the top. Just one back door, just saying. Sorry, I had to. I had to.
I didn't know.
Little bit of.
I didn't know. I don't know any. I didn't know there was multiple back doors. Whatever. Whatever.
Yeah,
Whatever. Whatever floats your boat.
Drive the asparagus
I'm
to
not
that.
judging.
Mike, do you want to take control of the booby hatch?
Yeah, I'm not judging. I'm not judging.
No, super. Thank you for everybody. Thanks for that. No, that's right. And the torture report may be released one day. It will have damning information about that for the previous administration, and maybe like President Bush says, maybe history will be the judge. Maybe it will look back on it and we'll decide if it was necessary for the time.
Yeah, but I will say this on a side note. It won't matter if the report comes out domestically. I'm going to say it again because what they're going to do is Bush didn't torture anybody. Obama did. That's all they're going to do. Somehow they're going to attach this thing, and the longer Obama waits, that's the problem with the party, with your guys' party, is because instead of going out guns blazing because the electorate, the Democratic electorate doesn't really care for attack type style politics, instead of just doing that, they're going to hold it so that, they come up with this wonderful plan to basically pin it on Obama somehow. That's all they're going to do. Some way, somehow, they're going to pin this onto Obama. It doesn't matter what happens, because Obama doesn't want to attack.
You may be right. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one, which would be the future of progressives in national politics. Now, we haven't really had any progressive narrative or policies or anything as long as I've ever been alive, and that's been about 33 years. So my question is, do we think that the country is finally waking up or finally realizing that the narrative has been so far off center to the right that for what the media describes as far left is really moderate right-wing type of policies? But the article that's in the link is about Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton, how progressives want to see Bernie Sanders in much more than Hillary Clinton, in that Hillary Clinton is more of like a corporatist type of Democrat, status quo, and Bernie Sanders may shake things up and fight to get the narrative more off back to the center by pushing a left-wing policy. Do you guys support Bernie Sanders as progressives, if everybody's progressive in the audience? Do you guys support a president like Bernie Sanders, or would you rather see someone else take that mantle, or do you think that Hillary Clinton would do a good job to push that mantle back to the left? Sean, we'll go with you, but I know you're not a progressive, you're a libertarian.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'll just challenge that in the last 33 years we haven't had any progressive policies. I mean, there are a whole bunch. Like, we've had the Violence Against Women Act has been expanded to a lot of different people. I know that's been debated by Republicans lately. Gay marriage has been sweeping across the country. Like, there are progressive victories in like recent memory, like, that existed. There was minimum wage increases on ballot initiatives this last election. But as far as like the progressive presidential candidate, I could see how most progressives would want a Bernie Sanders or an Elizabeth Warren type over somebody like Hillary Clinton, who is essentially the female version of Mitt Romney, in the fact that she has no actual positions except for the ones that will help her get elected and gain more power. But in reality, I have very little faith in the progressive movement, and I think when push comes to shove, even if Hillary Clinton was up against a candidate that I believe is remarkably better than her, like a Rand Paul, everybody that considers themselves a progressive would probably vote for Hillary Clinton for some ridiculous reason that boils down to the fact that she has a D next to her name. So, like, yeah, you may dream about Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren, but if Hillary's on the ballot in the national in the 2016 election, most progressives are going to vote for her and make excuses, just like most so-called progressives tend to make excuses for Obama.
I'd like to say one other thing. I'm reminded what Jank always says on TYT. He says, was there anybody during the 2008 primaries that came at Hillary Clinton from the left and eventually beat her? And the answer to that is, of course, yes. So, and that person was Barack Obama. Now, when President Obama got into office, did he push the progressive policies that he was talking about in the campaign? No. He was very much more establishment, much more like status quo kind of guy, probably because, to a point that was alluded earlier, didn't want to rock the boat, didn't want to, maybe cut his time short in office by somebody getting angry or whatever. So I think that the notion that Hillary Clinton may be like unbeatable or anything like that, I think she's just as beatable as she was in 2008. My question is, is it going to be somebody like President Obama that just gives lip service to the progressive movement, or is this person actually going to push forward a much more progressive policy?
I want to point out, I think Hillary Clinton is more beatable from the left than she was in 2008. Like, her positions are way worse during the Obama administration. I'm just saying, if she wins, then like I have little faith that people are going to vote independent or going to vote for the alternative if there is a viable alternative candidate. So I hope Hillary Clinton doesn't win. I'm tired of political dynasties. My nightmare is Jeb Bush and Hillary Clinton on the ballot. And the only thing that makes that nightmare worse is the idea that Liz Cheney might be Jeb Bush's running mate. So we get Bush Cheney all over again.
Sean, you just made me throw up in my mouth. I just have to say that. I just kind of, yeah, no. Liz Cheney, really? Ooh, jeez.
Yeah, and Tuki, do you or have you seen a real push towards is the country ready for like a more progressive vision for the country than they were in 2008 or 2004 or in the year 2000? Do you think that progressivism is really taking a much more not a stranglehold, but more of a hold back to where they were so much marginalized and sidelines in the years prior?
No. Progressives, I'm not a progressive, I'm a libertarian. Progressives, the problem with communism, let's go back to communism. The problem with communism wasn't that communism was particularly terrible. It was because it didn't deal with the human factor very well. Communism could work if you took out the humanity in humans, and they were somehow beautifully noble and amazing. But it doesn't work because it never dealt with the human aspect. The human aspect of the United States is both beautiful and ugly, all rolled into one. It has moments of great triumph and moments of pure cesspool pieces of shit. And the problem is that the Republican Party and the corporatist messaging and of the Democrat Party and everything to go along with it speaks to the most visceral part of the American psyche, and it will do it consistently, without fail, every election, so that they at least get close. And it's not people just check marking. I think you're underestimating the visceral nature of America, and that's what progressivism does. It underestimates what Americans actually want. Yes, Americans would love, to see that minimum wage go up. You have people, if you talk to an old man on the street, he'll tell you, I'm willing to pay 10 cents more for that burger, if it means that I don't have to be responsible for somebody else's kids not eating. But when push comes to shove, he will go for some stupid messaging about, something that doesn't even matter to him, because it's a visceral messaging, and that's what progressives lack. They lack the visceral connection, and because they can't reach that for some reason consistently, are unable to reach it. The scattershot topics, the scattershot progressivism, the scattershot, idealism is never going to beat out visceral hope, visceral, hate, visceral feelings. Even Reagan's message was a visceral, things are going to get better message. He wasn't doing anything to actually pull that off, but it was that visceral messaging, and it doesn't matter what the issues are if you can't prove to the American public that you understand the visceral message of the day, or give them a message that they understand and can digest quickly, efficiently, within a limited amount of time.
Michael, can I jump in, please?
Absolutely. Go ahead, please.
Please.
Sorry.
I seem to be the only Senator Sanders expert, and we veered off from the actual topic.
Which is if Bernie could do it. Yeah.
Bernie can absolutely do it. Here's why. He has a message of raising the minimum wage. He has a 12-point plan to actually bring up America and not hold back America. He wants to do things that people want to have done, like fix the college loan system that's broken, and the fun things. And if you listen to him, he's been consistent over 30 years in his messaging. It's not like he's not a Democrat. He's not a progressive. He's a socialist, democratic person. Okay, he's an independent party man. Okay, he just happens to vote with the Democrats, and that's what people mistake and don't see. Elizabeth Warren, while she's great, she's no Bernie Sanders. She's Barack Obama light. Sorry, she's Barack Obama light. We don't know if she got in power what she would be, willing to change principles on. We do know what Bernie Sanders is willing not to change principles on. You can see his 30-year Senate voting record. You can call him every week on Tom Hartman's program, okay, and actually ask him a question. I know this. Why? Because I have. Okay, and this whole narrative about the communism and capitalism is broken. Capitalism is
I didn't say capitalism. I didn't say either was broken or fixed. I said that human nature broke both.
Oh, well, fair enough, but it's broken. And it's so broken that we had to bail it the fuck out, okay? And, not for nothing, that was socialism that bailed it out. That was your tax dollars, that was my tax dollars, that was the illegal tax dollars that bailed it out. Not for nothing. And I am so sick and tired of this narrative that Bernie Sanders or someone like him with a proven track record cannot win. He can wipe the clock with Hillary. Did you see what he did to Michelle Bachmann? I mean, yeah, she's, bondage Bachmann, an easy target. But he cleaned her clock. They will not allow Bernie Sanders to go up against Hillary Clinton because he will wipe the floor out. Oh, how many votes did you put on the board as chairman of Walmart, Mrs. Clinton? He will ask those tough questions, and he will be the thorn in her side, and he will show the American people that someone who is socialist, it's not a dirty word, and it's not what, Glenn Beck and the right-wing media trolls have made it out to be. I'm done. I'm done. I'm gonna go off.
Okay, I want to talk about something that we haven't touched on about Bernie Sanders, and this is actually the actual reason why I believe that Bernie Sanders can't win. And it's not even, it has nothing to do with money. It has nothing to do with message. It has to do with because he looks like Bernie Sanders. Like, we have this stupid thing in this country about people needing to look presidential, and it goes all the way back to the famous Nixon-Kennedy debate, where people who listened to the debate on the radio said Richard Nixon won, so they agreed with what they heard, but people who saw it on TV said John F. Kennedy won. And we know John F. Kennedy is a vastly more better-looking person than Richard Nixon, and a more presidential-looking, more prestigious-looking person
he
than
sweated.
Nixon.
He didn't. Yeah, I remember.
But it's the same problem that Dennis Kucinich had, that Ron Paul had. Like, all these people had grassroots people who liked their message, but Mitt Romney looked like a president. John McCain was a war hero, but
Romney didn't look like a president. He looked like a used car salesman douchebag. Get it right.
Mitt Romney had the perfect amount of gray in his hair. He looked like a president. Barack Obama is a very good-looking, well-spoken guy who looks like a president. I know he's people are gonna say he's first black president, so he actually never did look like a president before. But I'm saying he looks.
He looks. He always has perfect posture.
Yeah.
He's presidential from start to finish of his campaign. He never had the woo Howard Dean moment. He was very poised the entire way out, including his family and even his children. It was almost like there was a robot up his ass and it was puppeting for him. It was the weirdest thing I've ever seen, but it worked. I got you. I agree.
So these guys, that works against Bernie Sanders. Just the fact that he's his age, that really is a negative impact on him. And
you know what? How old is Hillary going to be? How old is Hillary going to be?
Broken. Come on. Are we really doing that?
What now?
That's capitalism is broken. That's a meaning.
Capitalism is broken. How many more bailouts? We're looking at another possible
bailout. That's saying your ideology is doesn't mean anything.
Okay. Number one, we don't really have a capitalist system, so it never got broken. To have, you have to have a capitalist system in order for it to get broken. We never had a capitalist system, so therefore it wasn't broken. Okay, number two, he's correct. Bernie Sanders is not presidential. He's like the dude at the ice cream stand who's telling you about all the flavors, and waxing eloquently about, the mint and cream and stuff. He's a lovely man. He's great. He has, great potential as, a cabinet member, an excellent, punch to him. But we aren't talking about winning ideas. We aren't talking about the betterment of society anymore in our presidential elections. We aren't talking about, world peace. When's the last time in an election that the guy said, I want to do the right thing for every person in America, even if they don't vote for me?
Dennis Kucinich. Dennis Kucinich said while he was getting trounced, he said, I want to create a Department of Peace. Because we should be spreading peace around and not war.
About peace. I'm not talking about world peace at this moment. I said, when was the last time somebody from either party says, I want to do the right thing for every American, with the exception of Barack Obama, because he said he was being an ass at the time to the other party, because he knew that the numbers on half the things they were talking about was bull. But when was the last time a president said, I want to do the right thing, since JFK, I want to do the right thing for every American in this country, even if they didn't vote for me?
Every presidential candidate ever in history ever.
That's just, see.
No, they don't say that anymore. Look at the film. They don't say it.
You guys,
they talk about their constituents, their voters.
This is what pisses me off about American politics, okay? We're not willing to build a coalition, so we're willing to go to attack. All right, we're gonna look at the ugly. Okay, if we're gonna look at the ugly, I get it. I got my hair. I'm a little tubby. I got other issues. Okay, I get it. I'm not presidential material. Okay, but the messaging is sound. All right, you called me. What did you call me earlier?
Hearts and flowers. Unicorns with beer.
You know what? Why? Because people want that. People don't want to worry. People don't want to worry about their next paycheck. They don't want to live paycheck to paycheck. I want hearts and flowers for goddamn everyone. Because Because you know what? Then they can pay taxes, and then they don't care about.
Yes, but you're asking American voters to be logical, to do the thing that they should do for the best of their ability. Why is the South poor?
Why is the South poor? Oh, we're not going there.
It's a question I ask myself.
Take me off his show.
It's the question I asked my mom as a child at 10 years old. Why the hell is the South poor? Because it stabs itself in its heart every opportunity it has. Every time it goes up, it pushes another man backwards. And it's been doing that for 50-some-odd years. So every 2 steps they take over, they make sure to push one guy behind them back. And they've been doing that dance for a long time.
I'd like to close this one out. The reason the South's poor is because it punches itself right below its Bible Belt.
No, that's a way to close.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. That was good. Uh, no, but that's a really good point. And the reason I just wanted to bring up Bernie Sanders and progressive movement is that it is a different time in many ways than 2004 or 2000, 2004, and 2008, and 2012 even. We're seeing a resurgence in progressive policies, things that just make sense. It doesn't have to be like considerably off in left field or whatever, but like you guys alluded to, the rising of the minimum wage, the making sure that something like Glass-Steagall is in place for large financial institutions. That stuff just makes sense. And whenever you get like at the core of what makes sense, that is, I think, what really goes to the gut of the American voter. You are right, Sean. It does matter with a lot on optics and stuff, and President Obama really excels in that type of thing. But I think it is a different time, and I think that messaging is able to take much more hold than it was in the past. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and move on. The last story that I have found interesting was that in Houston, Texas, the police chief there came out in strong support of reforming marijuana laws, basically citing that we just don't have enough resources to chase down and lock up criminals for minor marijuana, traffic stops or violations or anything. So we see it happening all across the country. We see it happening through ballot initiatives, not on the national level, but on the state level. It looks like it's going to be coming down pretty hard. It's going to knock them down, like a domino effect with marijuana laws. My question is, again, kind of similar to the last question. Do you think that America is finally ready to give the big pharmaceutical giant companies, the boot in respect of medicinal, certain medicines that marijuana would be able to help out, and also as a recreational format? Do you finally think we're leaving that old way of thinking about marijuana and how we treat it behind, and it's the dawning of a new age in respect to marijuana? Sean, you can go ahead.
Yeah, first I want to point out that this is like a great story and a great police story that this guy in Houston does not want to do marijuana enforcement anymore. I think that the polls are in, and most Americans are in favor of medical marijuana by like a pretty large margin. We have a lot of states. I don't think it's up to half yet, but that have medical marijuana legal in one form or another. And medical marijuana should be like the easiest thing. Like if you're against medical marijuana, then your position is, I don't think that works for you as medicine, sick person, and therefore I want to ban it. And like that's like the most asshole position there could ever be. As far as like getting rid of prohibition, we're slowly inching in there. Like it's wonderful to see a police officer do it, but it's even more wonderful that we have states and municipalities that are taking that leap. And I feel like we're getting closer to a tipping point. But your point about the pharmaceutical companies is super valid, Mike. But you also got to remember there's the police unions. Like marijuana arrests are easy and they're overtime. There's the correctional union. There's the private prisons. There's the military contractors that send equipment to these departments to fight the drug war. There's the military contractors that send equipment overseas to fight the drug war. Like there's all these different things. There's foreign countries that rely on that foreign aid. Like, go ahead.
You're underestimating something. You're underestimating the level of broke we're at.
Level of broke?
Yes.
You're underestimating our level of broke. The only reason why we're having this conversation in the least bit, the only reason why Obama or any of these people are looking the other way is you're underestimating the fact that it costs $60,000 to house somebody in California in the prison system going on a prison college tour. It's $60,000. That's more than the person makes in America. You're underestimating the trip for Rikers Island is now at $250,000. A little under, no, not $250,000. It's like $120,000 at Rikers. That great NYC view. It's very expensive prison. You're underestimating the fact that their prison systems are so full that people are sleeping on the floor. It's not whether we should or we shouldn't, it's we can't afford it. There is no more money. We're done.
I think
Yeah,
that,
but those are a lot of drug arrests. Unfortunately, are subsidized arrests. And I'm sorry to step on your toes, Mike.
No.
but
I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The feds actually will subsidize drug arrests, and which is if you're a police
They're not
officer.
paying anymore.
I know, but it's also the dumbest policy ever because there's a direct correlation. Like in Baltimore, Maryland, when drug arrests doubled, arrests for murder, rape, robbery, actual crimes with victims were cut in half. So we're subsidizing the police to not look into actual crimes, which is horrible.
Yeah.
And I think this is great that this officer doesn't want to do that.
And also, the federal government cut down the amount of money in order to make the budget work. The federal government cut down the amount of money that they're willing to pay these small towns that are in the business of drug enforcement, because there's whole towns that actually aren't real towns. They have prison populations. They're actually gulag towns. They're gulag towns, and they're not paying those towns. So the towns are on the way up to becoming broke because they're still doing the enforcement, and they're revolting. They're saying, I'm not even going to bother anymore because they're not going to pay up, and we're not going to meet the yearly requirement. So the gulag towns aren't getting paid anymore. Again, we're at the same point. I don't think that the question that was asked of us in this, he asked of us, is actually a valid question. I think you're underestimating how broke in America we really are.
I just love capitalism.
yeah, go ahead, Tom. What did you want to say about it?
By the way, this has been a long-time liberal and progressive policy to end this nonsense and spend money on this drug war. Like Senator Sanders has been many years on the record for ending this. This is stupid. This is Reaganomics. This was something to make Nancy Reagan look good. Just Say No campaign. Remember that in the 80s?
Yeah. It's actually more based than that, but yeah, it's actually Nixon. Mm-hmm.
And well, yeah, it goes further back, obviously, yeah. But this is just to make the strong on crime Republicans, and this is and like you said, to create little towns and payoffs and pay off the police forces and everything else, and
it's been one long looting. It's actually just like a war is the rich establishment looting America. It's actually a looting game.
No, you're exactly.
It's looting.
Exactly right. And Mike, are we off on this, or what do you think on this?
Because I'm still interested to hear what your complete thought on it. And
go ahead.
No, it's okay. I'm for decriminalization of any type of drug and treated as a medical issue, addiction as a medical issue.
Cocaine?
Any kind of drug, treated as a medical issue because it's an addiction. Okay, an addiction. If you're violent, then you go to jail. If you're a dealer, then you go to jail. But the users should not be penalized for an addiction. And we need to get the American populace out of this mindset that it's not an addiction. It's ridiculous. I guess I'm almost libertarian in this view more so than socialist.
I was like, unicorn and beer is going libertarian on me. I was like, whoa.
Well, I to be fair, I started off a conservative, self-hating gay Republican, went to libertarian, and then went all the way to the socialist Democrat. So, to be fair, that
sounds like that should be on Cartoon Swim.
Yeah, probably. But no, I'm in tune with. I hate saying this, Senator Rand Paul with decriminalization of marijuana and getting rid of wiping that away and everything else.
I'm sorry, it looked like you were about to throw up in your mouth.
Well, every time Sean had me defending Senator Rand Paul on the show, what was it, a week ago? or 2 weeks ago, and I was like ready to shoot myself in the head. I really hate doing it because he's so wrong on so many issues. And
He's
when I
right
have
about a
to,
lot of things, though. He's right about a lot of things. And just
but
like any other politician, they have their points and they have their biases, and he's right and wrong about a lot of stuff.
and that's where I'm one of these guys who forces consistency out of me because I don't like wavering. And I will go and support as much as I want to throw up in my mouth. I will go and support Senator Rand Paul on that one issue. Like
yeah, we can have an entire segment on Rand Paul if you really want to, Tom. But I want to hear Mike's thoughts
I do too.
on the actual topic, not on Rand Paul.
Okay, so you want to hear what I have to say about what now? Just the topic at hand?
Yes.
Decriminalization or
So-
legalization.
Yeah, absolutely. So, in my opinion, we kind of alluded to Rand Paul. I think I've heard him say, and I don't want to quote him exactly, but that marijuana laws and other drug laws are there for a particular reason. That particular reason, among many other reasons, we alluded to the pharmaceutical companies, the military-industrial complex, the prison complex, but also we have to remember to it was probably a way to suppress minority communities. Make sure that you have your thumb down on them. Make sure they don't get out of line. What can we easily make sure that the police can enter their homes at a whim. It's a mixture of all those things, and I'm really glad to see
Zombie racism. Yeah, it's a zombie form of racism. Zombie racism.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of that's the impression that I got over the years. So I'm really happy that as a country everybody's starting to wake up, and then we really don't, or maybe we take it for granted, but down here in Louisiana, if you want to go have fun with your friends or whatever, it's like you leave the house, you go to a bar somewhere, you might get drunk, and then you have to drive all the way home. Well, that makes your roadways dangerous. That makes your just driving normally, that's really not good all the way around.
Are you guys a dry, not a dry town, but not selling at convenience store town?
No, we sell at convenience stores. That's mostly like Texas. I've seen some places in Texas that don't sell in grocery stores or convenience
Michael, can I make
stores.
a quick
Sure.
clarification on what I said about addiction? I do not believe weed is addictive. I want to make that very clear. I'm talking about hardcore drugs.
We were talking about cocaine at the time.
Yeah, I just want to make sure. But I'm saying we need to decriminalize and then treat the hardcore drugs as an addiction, because weed, it's just so mental to me that it's pharmaceutical and it's capitalism, again, capitalism broken, and it's a huge payoff. And I will say this is where socialism actually got it wrong, where people, feds pay off local governments to go prosecute people and punish people for doing something that should be treated as a health issue. So I will be equally consistent, because I believe in complete consistency when I rant.
Well, I honestly think we underestimate, the zombie racism going on here. I know that, black person saying they're underestimating the zombie racism, but you fail to see where they're actually enforcing drug policy. I remember in high school, I don't know if it was like this for you, but you would go find the person, you would go to the school that had, like, the upper class school to go get coke, weed, whatever they had. That's where, the drug dealers were. And that's where all the drugs were. Like, if you would go to their parties, those parties, it was like a sea of, alcohol, booze, drugs, weed, heroin, anything and everything. All the expensive drugs were all there. All the step downs, everything was there. So I think you underestimate, and the cops never showed up. So I think you're underestimating the lever it was on society,
No, you're right. I do. My mom has always said, gotta bring it back to my mama. She's always said that I have these big ideas and plans, and I can never find a way to properly implement them. And I don't know who to curse yet for that, but when I find them, Oh, they're going to get some swearing. They are going to get some swearing.
I just want to make one final point, because Tom keeps bringing up capitalism in the context of the drug war and decriminalization. So I just want to like shut that shit down right now. First of all, I'm in favor of full legalization of all drugs. Fuck this half-measure decriminalization bullshit. Secondly, a drug transaction is a voluntary transaction between two adults.
Consensual adults.
And it's consensual, and it should be perfectly legal. And there is no bigger failure of the original progressive movement and the new progressive movement than any effort where the government tries to make people better by criminalizing action.
I have a question.
Hold on. Prohibition of alcohol was a progressive policy. It was meant to protect women. It was an abject failure. And drug prohibition is in the same vein just because it was done by Richard Nixon. I mean, Richard Nixon created the EPA, so he had progressive ideas. So, like, there's nothing worse, and this is, like, the liberalism that I hate. And I know it's a super conservative policy, too. Don't get me wrong. I know it's tough on crime. But it's the liberalism and the conservatism I hate all boiled into one, where the government's going to make me a better person by forcing me not to do something, by limiting my choice.
I want to point out one point where I think you're absolutely wrong. It starts out as consensual, and then when it becomes hardcore drugs become an addiction, the consensual part ends.
But that's two different conversations. That's two different conversations.
I understand that, but you can't blanket statement that. Yeah. And I wanted to point that out.
You know, don't mash them together. Don't mash that sentence up together. If you lack the ability to make consensual consent, then you become like a child. If you lack the ability to make consent, that's why, you know, mentally ill people or mentally handicapped people can't, you know, be prostitutes, you know, or can't, you know, do any of the other things. They can't do any of those things because they are unable to, you know, give consent. Now, if you are unable to mentally give consent, then that's two different conversations. I mean, I'm for, you know, legalizing everything. I'm with my brother. I'm with you, brother. I'm with you.
I like the segment. I gotta say, Michael, I'm enjoying this.
You know, legalize it, you know, no matter what it is. And, you know, what we should do instead is probably have a license to use, meaning that you have to pass a test like the DMV to use. And then you would be signing away, you know, I know you don't want that, but, you know, you have to be realistic. If you're going to have heroin on the streets, you can't have somebody suing the federal government saying, oh, I didn't know heroin could be addictive. So you have to let them, you know, enter the system.
I just threw up a little bit. You had me, and then you got a license. Here's my license. 18 years old and an adult in America.
Oh,
yeah,
God.
License to use. I'm with the license to use camp. Second.
I'm with you on the license, by the way, actually.
License to use. Second, license to fuck.
What?
I want to say this. License to fuck. You should be able to be with any prostitute you want. And a prostitute should be able to, you know, work as a thing. You know, because, you know, we got this thing about consensual crimes here. And, you know, there's nothing, you know, that if the prostitute wants to be a prostitute, you know, let her be a prostitute.
Hey, as far as I'm concerned, by the way, for nothing, as far as I'm concerned, the Supreme Court legalized prostitution.
Yeah, it taxed them hoes.
No, when they said Citizens United was okay, they legalized prostitution. And so I'm waiting for that hooker to sue.
John Kerry working that poll, huh?
The only problem is that famous "money is speech" quote. I'm pretty sure it never actually appears in the Citizens United's decision. So it's funny to say that they legalized prostitution with that decision, and I wish it were true, but it's probably not true.
Find me that prostitute. I will figure out a way to crowdfund her lawyer.
Wow, so, you know, I'm glad we're all together on this prostitution thing and the drug thing. Now let's everybody be happy. And, you know, I want to say I don't do drugs, contrary to my name. It's just, you know, I don't do drugs. But, you know, I just don't feel that federal tax money should be used to continue the cycle of waste.
Right. So what we're basically saying is we want you and your same-sex partner to be able to shoot up heroin, hire a hooker and spice up your life, and protect your marijuana plants with your guns.
Yeah, and if you don't pay up, that hooker should be allowed to call the police and send your ass to jail so you pay her. That's it. No more pimps, no more hoes, no more drug dealers, no nothing. You know?
See, I think I was a little libertarian for too long. I'm agreeing with a lot of this. I'm being dragged in.
Come to the dark
Michael,
side.
help me. Michael,
come
help
to the dark
me.
side. Come to the dark side.
Okay, okay, that's great. The only other thing I wanted to add on about the marijuana deregulation is remember that if we did deregulate or bring down marijuana from a Schedule I narcotic like it's currently listed in the federal law, and we did make it an open-based format of the economy, that would help tremendously with our money issues or whatnot. The other thing is remember that marijuana is grown from cousin of the hemp plant, and hemp is also a banned plant in the United States, and that if we did grow it, it would also help with our carbon dioxide output or carbon monoxide output problem that we're having today. All right, so that was it on that one. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to throw it over to Sean. He's got one last story. This story's been in the news, and it's definitely a hot button topic. So go ahead, Sean.
Okay, so we're going from a police officer in Houston saying the right thing to the horrible police situation we face in America. We all know that or if you don't know, recently the Eric Garner decision, the grand jury decision came out, and they decided yet again not to indict another white cop for killing another unarmed black person. Now, this story to me is way about 1,000 times worse than the Michael Brown story because I don't know actually what happened in the Michael Brown story because there's no video. And we all know from the Eric Garner video that what you see is a man who is accused of selling a loose cigarette, and he's put in a chokehold, which is a maneuver banned by the NYPD, and he begs for help. He says, "I can't breathe," and the medical people on site refuse to give him oxygen. Now we're gonna go to a video later about a different angle about this story, but I just want to get a sense of how everybody feels about this topic. And from my perspective, as somebody who studies law and studies policing, I can point out two things that the officers did that was wrong and should be criminal. One, they put him in an illegal maneuver, and two, they denied a suspect oxygen when he said he can't breathe, which is procedure, and yet there's no indictment. So anybody who wants to jump in, go ahead.
Can I, please?
I said anybody. Are you anybody?
I am anybody, but I just wanted, if anybody had anything they wanted to say, I forever hold their peace. Preferably not a gun. Anyway, I said this on my show. I'll say it here as my earbulb falls out. That I am for the complete dismantling of every police force in the United States and having a group come in, citizens, and not
Audit.
The complete retooling of the police force everywhere.
Audit. You're talking about audit. You're talking about police audit.
No, I'm talking about firing everybody.
You're talking about dissolving it, like the place that Darren Wilson originally came from got dissolved.
Yes.
Gotcha.
And then ground up. Good cops stay, and bad ones bye. And I doing it maybe even every year, so they know where they stand. I find it ironic that this is the one band of Union brothers that and sisters that the Republicans are willing to protect.
Because they riot. The police riot.
And it goes back to the Republicans trying to be strong on something they're weak on, and they have nothing else because they have no plan ever unless you talking points as a plan. Anybody else?
In 1992, Dinkle, the New York mayor, I think it's Dinkle or something, Dinkle, something like that, decided to create a citizen board. Dinkins. He created a system board, and the police had a mini riot. The protesters came, and the police sort of dissolved their ranks, allowing for them to overrun the area and riot. So they had a mini riot. Every time, every way that you try to reform the police, short of dissolving the whole entire police station, it's met with a lot of problems. The only reason why the LAPD actually had major reforms is because LA is worth trillions of dollars, and that riot, it's not the 50s anymore where you can just, racism means more than money. Money means more than racism. Now, it used to be the other way around, but it's brass taxes right now. Somebody will take $1 over, kicking a black person these days. It's not a preferred thing. So I mean, the only reason why the LA police force, even though it still has problems, had any form of reform is because, that riot shut that place down for such a long time. I mean, and LA is worth trillions of dollars. LA has a GDP that beats out most countries. LA, San Francisco, California, California has a GDP that beats out. It's the 7th greatest GDP in the world if it was a country by itself, and that's without a stock market inside of itself. So, and that's without major banks, without a national bank inside itself. So, I mean, that's the only reason why, because they mess with it. Otherwise, it's almost impossible to reform a police station. It's impossible. It's almost impossible to fire a incompetent cop, a sloppy cop. It's impossible to fire. It's impossible. You can fire a cop who's on the take because he's taking from the department itself. Because when a police officer brings in narcotics or money, that gets split in the department. It's a piece of everybody's take.
Yeah, but I'm gonna disagree on the impossibility of firing a cop. It's difficult to prosecute a cop for things like police brutality, but a lot of police officers are higher among union jobs for dismissals. I want to just get Mike's take on this before we're gonna run this video.
Are we talking about in affluent neighborhoods, or are we talking about in regular neighborhoods?
Well, it's hard to prosecute cops anywhere, apparently.
I think anywhere.
I'm
talking about firing. I'm talking about the firing.
Oh, no, but firing. The guy in the pink houses probably won't see a day. The pink houses shooting probably won't see a day in jail, but he's gonna lose his job over that.
That's in an affluent neighborhood or in a poor neighborhood.
Well, he works he's a NYPD officer, but he worked in the Bronx. That's not where he lives, though.
Pink house.
No, that's what I'm talking about. His work, the Bronx, number one. The Bronx is a poor.
Yeah.
That's an affluent neighborhood.
He works in a poor. He was in a project. He works in a poor neighborhood. It was a poor building.
Sean, what do you like?
I don't want to stay on this point for too long. Mike, any thoughts about Garner before we get to the video?
Yeah, the only thing I have to say is, I mean, I've looked at these kinds of tragedies all over the place, and it's truly heartbreaking. I really don't know what else to say. The only thing that this problem is definitely multi-layered. There's definitely no one-shot solution. The only thing I can really think is that, well, not only the police officers like Darren Wilson or others clearly aren't up to the quality of what we would expect in a law enforcement officer. Whether or not, Darren Wilson's testimony essentially was that I was scared, so I shot him. I mean, that's kind of the gist I got. So these guys need to be paid more as far as being able to. They need to feel like they're being taken care of, not only the community itself, but also the police officers. So I almost want to advocate for a new form of a new bill of rights for the citizenry and the community in regards to law enforcement, because I think that a lot of those rights have been washed away after the terrorism ordeals of 2001 onward. And I also kind of want to see a new Bill of Rights for police officers, like making sure that their pensions are protected from fraudulent banking services, stuff like that, where their pensions are gambled away on Wall Street, where they don't pay those guys correctly, they don't give them the adequate care they need, much in the same vein of whenever military personnel comes back from Iraq, or anything that kind of stuff like that. All those things need to be looked at on a much more broad scale, and we need to kind of remember that we're all here for each other, that we do need to take care of our people, whether or not they be citizens or police officers or militaries. So that's really the only thing I can say. I don't really have it's definitely a tragic death, and I would have expected an indictment for sure on both counts, but that's what we got, and I support the protesters because they do have something valid to protest against.
Michael, can I just say you dropped an excellent elbow on that? You just kind of just bam. Yeah.
Tom, I gotta segue to the video. Okay, so I just wanna say that before we get to this video that I feel like I live in New York, and I do sell loose cigarettes all the time, and just like anybody who's ever smoked a cigarette or been at a nightclub, so I felt a little bit of a personal connection to the Garner case, because it's like something that's done in my neighborhood every single day and nobody gets hurt over it, and like this person died and there's no consequences for that. But Peter King, congressman from Staten Island, who actually lives in the same borough as Mr. Garner, or as Mr. Garner did, he had a different take on, as a New Yorker and somebody who's been following this story. And I just want to cut to that video right quick and then get everybody's reaction.
First of all, the death was tragic, and our hearts have to go out to the Garner family. Having said that, I do not believe, I feel strongly the police officer should not have been indicted. I've been following this case from the start. You had a 350-pound person who was resisting arrest. The police were trying to bring him down as quickly as possible. If he had not had asthma and a heart condition and was so obese that almost definitely he would not have died from this. The police had no reason to know that he was in serious condition. I know people were saying that he said 11 times or 7 times, I can't breathe. Well, the fact is, if you can't breathe, you can't talk.
Yeah. So basically, if Eric Garner wasn't so fat, he would be still alive today. And he was resisting arrest. I mean, it doesn't matter that he was being arrested for a bullshit charge, but I guess he's resisting, and they wanted to take him down as quickly as possible. Which, by the way, like, when did we decide that somebody selling loose cigarettes needed to be taken down as quickly as possible by any means necessary? Now, Tom and Michael, I want you guys to shut up because I cut our special guest off before, and it's your turn to weigh in. Did everybody freeze?
I didn't freeze.
Oh.
Do you want us to comment, or you want someone else to?
I just segued. Oh.
Your segue is broken.
Let me just say something about Representative Peter King. I mean, what can you say about this guy? This guy is completely off base. Pretty much everything he ever talks about. I mean, even if the police officer thought it necessary to take Mr. Garner down, there would have been multiple other ways to do so rather than a chokehold to the neck, in which case he was saying I can't breathe over, I think, what was it, about 10 times, 8 to 10 times, and eventually died right then. And so tasers or whatever, I mean, but even then would be an excessive force. It's pretty clear what Representative King is doing. He's driving a wedge between a certain segment of the community that happens to be against a minority community that would side with a Republican policy that's tough on those somebody with a darker skin complexion. It's pathetic, and it's really sickening to watch, but that's what it is.
want me to go, Sean? Okay, I'll go. Fine. Don't tell me what you want me to do. I I think Representative King has had one too many pudding pops from Bill Cosby and really needs to have one more and keep his mouth shut. If you're gonna start by fat shaming when you're in need of a gym, you really need to keep your mouth shut. I think it's horrible that he did that and how he said that, and I'm really tired of Republicans and the conservative meme of constantly blaming the victim. I mean, really, every case, it's the victim's fault. The victim can't even defend themselves. Okay, Representative King can defend himself from my pudding pop. So I'm really tired of the victim blaming and everything else that's gone on by the conservatives. And not for nothing, Bill O'Reilly, he was so merciful the other night. He would not have choked Eric Gardner so much. He still would have done the thing that's banned, but he wouldn't have choked him so much, and he would have released his arm, when he heard he couldn't breathe. So, merciful, Bill O'Reilly one.
I don't think it was actually about what he was saying wasn't about the fact. It wasn't about, well, here's twofold. I'm going to split it in half because I didn't split it in half. Okay, so the issue with the cop grabbing the guy, it wasn't about him grabbing the guy. It was about dominance. A lot of police officers, I spent a lot of time talking to police officers, just talking to them, because I used to get, because I wore hoodies and I always kept my hair covered and I'm a little chunky, I used to walk from the poor area into the rich area and the rich area into the poor area. So I actually used to switch over my cops. The cops the cops at that border area, would follow me around like, I was stealing something constantly, and I couldn't figure it out. So when I got older, I started making these videos and stuff, and, got me a job later on in life, but I started just talking to these cops, and he started giving me tips, the reason why sometimes we stop black people is because a lot of black people flinch. And then when a white person flinches when I walk by, I have to stop them and take a better look at them. They gave me all these excuses and stuff like that. But when it came down to it, it was about dominance. And even if they're in a position where they know that they are wrong, they have trouble walking away without asserting their dominance first. And it's consistently about dominance and submission. And they're taught to have control of every situation. I'm going to walk into a situation, you have to control it. Police Academy, control the situation, control the situation, control the situation. And they confuse controlling the situation with asserting dominance on somebody. And
right.
You're confusing it with de-escalation, and they're confusing it because of the system, because we have an increasingly sophisticated society where people before would just accept things. They don't accept things as quickly and as readily as they once did. The amount of control a police officer had in the 1950s with the white audiences was, the person would just do it and say, hey, Mr. Officer, third thing, And right now what we're dealing with is we're not dealing with Sheriff Andy's. We're dealing with, instead of hiring Sheriff Andy, who actually thought about the way his town needed to run, because, he knew that the town needed to run so he would get paid. If I put everybody in jail, the town doesn't run. Now, what you have here is you've hired a whole bunch of Barney Fifes. And Barney Fife was a fuck-up. He was a fuck-up because he put in, every single time he got the smallest amount of control of his town, he put everybody in jail. Without realizing that if people are in jail, they can't pay your salary. And he would put people in jail for minor offenses, little dits and dots, and it would clog the system with all the things that Barney would put everybody in jail for. And a town doesn't work that way. Cops are supposed to look the other way every now and then, because if I put everybody who did any little thing in jail, I would be spending more money on jail than they make for the society itself, which is what we are currently doing with the Gulag system. Now, that's part one.
But
Part two.
you're not answering the critical question. Isn't it more I'm sorry, I keep confusing Michael Brown and Eric Garner. Isn't it more Eric Garner's fault for having asthma than the cop's fault?
Yeah, I'm getting to part two. I'm getting to part two with Stupid King. Part one was cop. The cop had the distinct impression he couldn't walk away. He couldn't walk away because he was trained incorrectly to walk away. It was also a screening issue. You know, we have a very low bar. It doesn't matter if we're not most of the firefighters and medical personnel work for free. Cops don't work for free. Large portions of our firefighters work for ditzy. They also get their pension screwed, but they still do their job. Okay, so that's part one. Part two. The reason why Peter King is stupid, or whatever his name is, it's not about this guy having asthma. He believes in the society, whatever it is that he's told to believe in. He believes in the blue collar, heart of the earth, guys who are paying my rent, the people that matter, and, it's the same old story that, Eric Garner is the people that don't. He did something wrong in the past, so therefore you no longer become an American citizen. Because one time he did something wrong. So therefore he does not receive the rights that everybody else does, and he's no longer an American citizen because he did one thing wrong one time. Which is how America works. It doesn't matter. You don't stop becoming an American citizen because you're homeless. You don't stop becoming an American citizen because you're in foster care. You don't stop becoming an American citizen because you got kicked out of the army. You don't stop becoming an American citizen, but for people like Peter King, it's about the sinner. He sinned, so therefore he's worthless to society. Well, you know what? Eric Garner's going to cost us around $4 to $5 million. And there goes your pension fund, assholes. He's going to cost us untold amounts of money. And if the National Guard gets pulled out, which will cost a state when the National Guard pulls them, which will cost the state $1.5 million a day. Wait, $1.5 million a day, 1.5 or 1.8, I can't remember, dollars a day. Eric Garner matters now, huh, son of a bitch? Eric Garner matters, huh? It's like they don't think, it's like they treat this tax money and these people in the country like it's freaking monopoly. And right. Always beware of the righteous. Always, because especially not to cut you off, and I apologize for that, but I just go for
anyway. Beware of the self-righteous, the Republican, Jesus-loving, self-righteous. I'm right, you're wrong, and I'm gonna beat your ass with my Bible as I tell you how right I am. And does anybody else have anything that they want to say? Or Michael, I think we have breaking news.
Yeah, I just wanna let you go. I just wanna encapsulate this and throw it over to Michael for some surprising news.
Not surprising.
Well, it's surprising in the fact that it's breaking during this show, which doesn't do breaking news. But yeah, I just want to say the Eric Garner case is it's on video. It's so obvious. It's so the
jury nullification.
Yeah,
jury nullification. KKK days, jury nullification.
But it's not even jury nullification. You could say there's reasonable doubt after we go to trial. This is a grand jury, and I know
grand juries used to nullify. Don't you remember?
Yeah, but it's just all you need is probable cause. And if you're a prosecutor, and I think it's not jury nullification, I think it's the prosecutor throwing the case. Like this case could be
you're not paying attention. How old? You remember? You're a law student. We have both been at the grand jury stuff. If they did not pick, was it a special juror? I think it was a special jury.
It was a grand jury, and I think they were in
special
since August.
Yeah. Okay. If it's the grand jury, how old are the people on the grand jury?
Well, I don't know that information. They only give us the CNN. I think gave us the racial makeup, but that's not the point I want to make. It does.
They're older.
But it shouldn't take 20 days to present this. It shouldn't take 30 days. It shouldn't take 40 days to present this case. It should take 40 minutes if you're a prosecutor. Here's the operations manual where a chokehold is illegal. Here's the other section where it says if somebody says they can't breathe, you have to give them oxygen. Here's the video. Make an indictment. Like, that's it. Like, I feel, and that's because this information hasn't been released yet, but I feel like, and I think I'm probably 900% right, that they threw this case, and I think that's a shame. Even when it's, like, clear as day, no conflicting testimony, it doesn't matter. Like, there's no justice if you're in a certain group in America against the police. And I just want to throw it, and we have some breaking news about a Senate race, and I want to throw it over to Michael so he could cover that on that horribly depressing note. Please don't depress us more, Mike.
All right, thank you, Sean. In Louisiana, our election was at the same time as everybody else, November 4th. In Louisiana state law, anytime a candidate receives underneath 50% of the vote, or both candidates, then they go into a runoff. And the runoff was decided today. And Mary Landrieu has lost re-election for her Senate campaign, and Bill Cassidy is now the new Louisiana state senator in what is the most expensive Senate race in Louisiana state history. So that just goes to show you. I know a lot of records were broken this go round in Kentucky and other places, but Louisiana was definitely one of them. It's all the more reason to say that we need to amend our campaign finance laws to not have all this outside money pouring into state elections where the citizens of whatever state it is should be deciding it, not outside spending groups. So I wanted to couple that somewhat depressing news in the sense that it's the most expensive Senate campaign with news that I'm sure everybody knows about, that Wolfpack had succeeded in getting the third state to sign on for a constitutional amendment to restore free and fair elections in America. So I'm hoping that Louisiana is the fourth. I was hoping that Louisiana would be the third, but that's all right. I'll take fourth place.
How close is Louisiana?
Louisiana does have a bill that's pending in the subcommittee right now. We got it introduced last year, but it basically just got shelved. So we're looking to push forward on it this year. So it is pending. News. Yeah. So at least we're got our foot in the door. So I'm really confident. We got some great guys in Louisiana. The forum that connects all of us is really active. Everybody's been really great, pretty much all around the country. Wolfpack's really.
Well, if the back signal goes up for calls, I'll be on the calls.
Michael, side note before I'd like to have you on to talk about that at some point. We need to talk about that if you can at some point. Wolfpack in Louisiana. But who do you want to take this off first?
Say it again.
Who would you like to lead in with the Landrieu losing?
Oh, that was really it. The news came out tonight, so our voting day was today. So I don't really have any kind of source on it, but I do have that.
Did you actually see her winning though? Seriously, did you think she had a chance, really?
It was pretty stacked against her. She was down double digits. But my only criticism for that is Mary Landrieu went in after the initial election and pushed for the Keystone XL pipeline. Now, if a Democratic Party is truly different than a Republican Party, which we already know that the Republican Party is going to bring it up as one of their first issues in the new Senate going forward, then what was really the choice for voters to have? The answer is there was no choice. it was corrupt politician A or corrupt politician B, which is all the more reason why I vote on election day, but I spend the other 364 days fighting with Wolfpack to change this corrupt system.
Thank
because
you, Michael.
I do think that we deserve, in Louisiana and in America, better. I expect better than what we're currently being offered.
Can I ask you a question, Michael? Real quick, I'm sorry. Because I'm an outsider.
Sure.
I'm an outsider looking in. Did it feel like, to use a Godfather reference, because I'm a huge mob movie fan, did Mary Landrieu this election cycle slit her wrist in the bathtub?
I mean, not necessarily, not anymore. It's a money game. So everybody's just after the money. Whoever gets the most money wins. So it becomes like a sense of like not really giving two damns about what the people think. It's about how much money can we raise to trick them to vote for us, or to trick them to make sure that they don't find out about this, or to trick them to, you know, do this or whatever. It's a propaganda campaign. So those cost money. And what I would like to see in Louisiana and the nation is to not have propaganda campaigns, to actually, you know, have 8 or 9 people in a forum, kind of like how we're doing today, to discuss issues, to get all kinds of different points of view. That's my grand vision for our state.
I like that vision. I'll shut up to let anybody else speak.
If you're a unicorn in beer, he's unicorn in weed. I think that I love Wolfpack, but I don't know. I think it's always going to be about propaganda. It's just, you know, how many other people get to come to the show.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I think that the propaganda will always be there with us, but I do seek to limit it. What I don't want it to be is like an unlimited amount of propaganda or unlimited amount of corporate spending or just flooding in. Like if it's really kind of interesting when you think about it. If it was American corporations that would funnel money into our politics, then it would make a little more sense in that they'd have a stake that needs to be represented, but it's not always American companies.
No, it's not. It's actually Chinese, Russians are now using lobbyists.
And that's just crazy to me, because the system that we have set up, the reason why our states are divvied up into 50 individual entities and not a national thing is because we can all affect our political outcomes on the ground level.
Yeah.
United States of the highest bidder.
You can't do that when you and I'm sorry to interrupt. You can't do that when you have, and you guys know this. You're not stupid, like Dr. Gruber says. You can't do that when you have people like the Koch brothers or a Tom Steyer or whoever has the most money, like you said, wins the election. We need to be able to prove on a ground level that the libertarian idea or the socialist idea wins. And that's why I love Wolfpack, because I believe that whether it's your form of propaganda or my form of propaganda, whatever you want to call it, will win over the money factor. And once we get money out of politics, we'll be able to prove that the Republicans really are a broken record of bad ideas.
All I gotta say is another corporatist Democrat bites the dust, and I don't know much about Bill Cassidy or whatever his name is, except I kind of want to call him Butch Cassidy, and I hope his chief of staff is the Sundance Kid.
That would be great. That's good. Yeah. So we'll just see how Bill Cassidy really goes with it. David Vitter is our other senator, and I always give David Vitter a really tough time, so I'm sure I'll be giving Bill Cassidy a rough time from here on out.
Michael, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Hopefully she could come back and kick. I mean, I don't want her to come back. I want new people in the House and the Senate. But somebody who is electable in Louisiana needs to come back and kick David Vitter's ass. And everybody's going to tell me Vitter's retiring, so fuck you guys.
Well, I think he's running for governor, is he not, Michael?
Yes, yeah, he is currently running for governor. He was in support for Common Core's education standards that would prove deeply unpopular in our state. and he had recently reversed course just this week on the 1st. He now says he is opposed to Common Core standards, which, by the way, is already implemented into our school systems by the previous governor, Bobby Jindal, our current governor. But he has also reversed course on the Common Core standards. So he'll that's been an up and down kind of thing. So he's got to get on equal footing with the other people in Louisiana. But right now, it's go ahead.
Will Bobby Jindal run?
Bobby Jindal will run for president. He recently said that he was touched by the hand of God, and that he made it clear his intention to run for president.
No, that was just me trying to grow.
He was touched by the hand of God in his Bible belt to make that
That
joke.
was just me trying to grow Bobby Jindal.
Where was he touched by the hand of God exactly?
In his Bible belt. But can I just point out one fact about Bobby Jindal, and this is a real, true fact. He is also known in Louisiana as Governor Creepy Walk.
Here's Michael. I mean, you're the one in Louisiana. Can you verify that for me?
Go watch the video where he gives the response to the State of the Union. That is the creepiest fucking walk ever.
Yeah. He was well chastised for his Mr. Rogers walk up to the podium in the, I believe it was the 2009 State of the Union address.
Yeah, he does not have the George W. Bush swagger down.
That's.
Oh God. You know the scary thing is Bobby Jindal is like a scientist with like degrees and stuff. It's so scary.
Hey, just because
no, sad, not scary.
Doesn't make him a scientist. That's racist.
What was that?
I said just because he looks like he's of Indian heritage does not mean he's a scientist.
No, he has a
Don't
biology
be racial
degree.
on the show.
No, he has a biology degree or something. It's in evolutionary something or other. I can't remember because you remember he was on the stand and they were talking about, they quizzed him on creationism and he couldn't say that he was for creationism, but he couldn't say he was against either. So he was stuck. What is
That's
it?
always fun watching a Republican be stuck. It's like spinning your wheel.
Yeah. For the record, I'm not denying that Bobby Jindal has a degree. I just wanted to make a stereotype joke because I feel bad for the fact that he's running for president because of the creepy walk, but more so because of the racist Republican Party that will say that he is an Islamic plant in the Republican primary, even though he's
They'll
not
still vote for him.
Muslim.
No. What they need is Bobby Jindal and Dr. Ben Carson.
They
implied
that John McCain had an illegitimate daughter, and I think he adopted her or something,
Yeah,
or that he had an affair.
Yeah, he did.
Adopted her.
So yeah, like don't like pretend that what I said was not real, especially when Jeb Bush is in the campaign.
No.
You know whose team.
Michael, you're my Louisiana expert. I need to ask you. You're the first person I've actually ever met from Louisiana, so I feel kind of touched. But who is the top in the Dr. Ben Carson and Bobby Jindal relationship? If one of those guys is going to be on the top of the ticket, and by top I don't mean sexual. So get your minds out of the gutter.
I'm sorry. Are you asking me if Bobby Jindal and Ben Carson go on the same ticket, who would be on top and who would be on the bottom?
Yes, and I'm trying not to be sexual about it, but
right. I would imagine that Dr. Ben Carson would have a better, easier time to get to the top of the ticket. I think Bobby Jindal was. I think he said some things in the past that really kind of shake the boat in the form of him getting through the primaries and even the general election. Honestly, I don't really think Bobby Jindal has a shot in hell to do much of anything beyond this. I could be wrong. I've been wrong before. But one of my favorite Bobby Jindal quotes was the time where somebody was mentioning like about how hard minority communities have it in America, and his grand advice was, well, I mean, if black people just acted more like white people, then they wouldn't have a big problem. So that was probably one of my favorite ones. He's also been involved in exorcism. That's always a classic.
Wait, what?
What's up with this exorcism thing lately? Explain that to me. Explain yourself.
He admitted in a radio interview that he was a part of an exorcism or
Did it have to do with Bob Larson? Was Bob Larson involved in Skype?
I don't know, but I have a non-substantive point to make about Bobby Jindal. He actually is going to pick Peter King as his running mate because Bobby Jindal thinks black people should not have should act more like white people, and Peter King thinks that black people should never get sick because anything that happens to them is their fault if they're sick. So
or fat.
yeah, it's like the perfect ticket.
Jindal King 2016.
Yeah, what's up with the exorcism thing lately? Somebody explain this to me. Out of nowhere, we have Inquisition and exorcism all the time. Exorcism,
I don't know, but it makes for great radio, man.
There was this video of somebody at a Starbucks doing an exorcism, and I was like, what is going on? I mean, people didn't talk about this like 10 years ago. I don't remember people talking about exorcisms.
I'm gonna down on this exorcism story. So if you guys want to have fun with it, you might as well cut me off now. But I actually hate the idea of exorcisms because exorcisms are the Catholic Church's way, or was basically the Catholic Church's way of taking advantage of mentally ill people before we knew what they were.
Well, yeah, no, you're right. Sean, you're right.
The reason why exorcisms are so popular right now is obviously because of reasons.
No, I don't think I think it's more than that. I think it's more than that. Michael, I'd love you to jump in if you disagree with me. But I think it's a way of their the dominance and love of God and everything else, and they can lay hands and that, oh, I cured this person. Look what I did. You don't need no Obamacare. You don't need that liberal affordable care.
It's like everybody exorcism every week. It's like an exorcism every other week. They're talking about exorcism. I'm like, where's this exorcism monster? Who is this guy? Where is he at? Explain to me. Is this a Southern thing? Is it spreading like the plague?
My question is, with all this popularity of exorcisms, why did Darren Wilson try and exorcise the demon he saw in Michael Brown with bullets instead of his Bible?
The level of unprofessionalism. The level of unprofessionalism in Darren Wilson's statement. I mean, you can't even get a security guard off on that freaking statement.
Oh my God, no, you're right. And I've made this argument on my show that go with the Republican narrative of how with the grand jury testimony and beat them over the skull with it, because this guy is an embarrassment and should be pointed out as an embarrassment to police officers by his own testimony alone.
Who a demon? Last time I checked, he was black. He wasn't a demon, although we do look rather dark. In the dark, our eyes do kind of glow. It does not mean it wasn't dark. It was bright day. You couldn't be that scared, okay? You couldn't have been that scared, buddy. So I mean, it's like his whole testimony, demon. I'm like, I sat there. I was talking to a police. When this happened, I had a conversation with a police. Like a police soldier dude. I forgot what they're called. The people who are on the base police. And he works at an embassy. He works at an embassy, and he's basically security guard at the embassy, and like a Marine. And I said to him, the goal here as the mission, he said, oh, what he did was correct. If I would have emptied my clip, 12 bullets, I would have emptied my clip too. That's what you do. That's what the PT officer said to us. He did almost everything right. He shouldn't have done the mace. I'm like, number one, he pulled his vehicle directly in front of his suspect. Wrong. Putting his way out, his escape and his way out directly in front of his suspect. So he had to open the door. The door opened in front of his suspect. So his suspect could either push it in or pull out. Incorrect again. I mean, it was like, it didn't take a genius to do this. I'm like, if you're being trained, so that is actually a correct way you apprehend a suspect, then what the hell are you being trained? I mean, I was literally appalled, talking to this guy who, who's basically, the soldier version of the police. And I'm like, number one, the main goal of police officers in cities is to be peace officers. They're peace officers because they need our little asses to work so they have to get paid. That's the point of this. So, you know, if that's the point, then his point should have been to apprehend that guy, right? You know, he should have apprehended him because that's what he was supposed to do.
You're right. And again, I just go back. My liberal friends, my libertarian friends, if you're upset with this cop, with Darren Wilson, use the Republican conservative narrative and beat them over the head with it. It's the worst possible narrative. And
they don't care.
Another time. I know they don't care. Do it anyway.
They don't care. They don't care. They don't care. He could have been white and they wouldn't care. That's the one thing. You remember during the Revolution that 20% of the population, or 30, I can't remember the amount my history teacher told me, of the population sided with the British because they're the British?
Well, yeah.
It didn't matter who the authority figure was, they're going to side with them. That's just the way some people are. And that's the way the core base of the Republican Party was. You know, that's the core conservatism. It doesn't matter who's in charge, what they do, unless they're black. They're going to side with whatever the authority figure is.
No, I hear you. Michael, do you have anything else you want? You're an awesome host, man, because you just let us go on and sputter off.
I think we're being bad. I think we're actually bad. I think it's the exorcism that did it. The demons and the exorcism.
The demon. I'll blame the demon. And I'm a homo, so I have the homo demon. So I'll take the homo demon blame for that.
Well, no, everybody made great points, and I'm glad we all got to get our 2 cents in. And if everybody said what they needed to say, I thought it was a great discussion all the way around. What I want to do is I want to cap it off by going to each one, and I want you guys to talk about your projects if y'all have any. If y'all have a Twitter or Facebook that we can get in contact with, or if y'all have any radio programs or podcasts that y'all like to also plug. So, Tookie, I want to start with you. Go ahead, please.
Oh, that's mean. Not really doing anything right now. Current projects. Working. My Twitter is TOKIES. So at Tookies. Same old. And I write currently. I'm just doing some writing, so it's pretty boring. I don't plan on doing another, radio show or anything like that. It's fun, but it makes me so angry.
Well, that's kind of sad because I really like your microphone. It looks like you.
I know, right? She totally has. I'm jealous.
I mail it to you, but I still do voiceovers. I was
jealous of that microphone first, man.
I still do voiceovers for if I do like comic book stuff. I still do voiceovers, so
cool.
I still need it.
Thank you. Tom, did you want to plug anything or talk about any of your projects?
No, thank you, Michael. I'm a huge supporter of wolf-pack.com, so I always try to, throw that out there as much as I can. You guys who listen to me on Some Say with Tom and Nikki, at 3 o'clock, we've gone back to 3 o'clock so we don't interfere with TYT Community anymore. And 3 o'clock, and then Sunday at 6, we're having Jeff for Justice, and all those times are Eastern time zone. And we don't have YouTube to worry about, so most of the time we're on time. So as long as tech doesn't completely crash on us, we're on time. And the majority of the time people are late, it's because of tech. So there you go.
Thank you. Sean?
Yeah, you guys can find me at IamSean90 on Twitter. You could obviously find me at the TYT Nation channel doing TYT community shows. You can find me from Midtown to the Upper West Side of Manhattan if you seem to bump into me every now and again. Or you can find me where I live in Queens, but that's probably going to be difficult because I go to shady places and you won't ever see me. Also,
are you making it easier for me to stalk you, Sean? What is this?
Nobody's gonna find me. It's never happened before. Also, I might start a new project if somebody gets me a video camera for Christmas. Not saying anything, just saying family members and friends who might be watching / Jeff. So That's it.
All right, thank you, Sean. I'm sure Jeff got the message. All right, so my name was Mike, or my name is Mike, and I have a Twitter that I'm pretty active on. It's at Cool Mike Sin. That's Cool Mike Sin, S-I-N, all one word. And also run the same channel off of Facebook. There we fight Louisiana corruption in our political system. We're yeah, it's an uphill battle.
Hey, you're fighting the good fight,
100%.
man.
We're 100% Wolf Dash Pack, and we're gonna win in the end. So and I'm also try to be a regular as much as I can on TYT Community. So anyway, my name is Mike. This was TYT Community. Thank you for our guests. Thank you to Jeff who ran into on the back end of the system, and everybody have a great night. Thank you very much for watching. Bye bye.
You fight corruption.
Bye, guys.
Ah.
Hey, that was fun, man. Thanks.